It's time for Q&A in the Kitchen. It's a podcast and YouTube series where we talk about common questions that those that collect tattoos and piercings have with our panel of experts of tattoo artists and piercer. This is brought to you in part by Skin Kitchen Tattoo, the Axiom Body Piercing Studio, and Death Before Decaf. What we're on here is season, and we're seasoned.
Yeah.
Season 2, episode 9.
Seasoned like a nice pair of underwear.
And what we're going to talk about today is tattoo removal and covering it up with makeup and etc.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. It's a common thing, you know. The more tattoos people get, the more tattoos there are potentially to be removed. I said 6 years ago, at the beginning of my career, not long after the beginning of my career, that the real money would be in taking them off, not putting them on.
Absolutely.
And that's really kind of true, and because more and more we're doing cover-ups, and that's only because a lot of times people have a misconception of cover-ups, or they think that it's, you know, either it's too expensive or too painful or too lengthy of a process, and people a lot of times just want it now.
Or the fact that you have to expand the design to properly cover it up.
Yeah, sometimes a
lot of people don't want to go that big.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're kind of burnt on the idea of a tattoo because they had a bad experience already. Right. Mm-hmm. So if they just want to make it better, but they don't want it any bigger, and if they could just erase it, they would.
There's kind of a lot of rules with covering up tattoos. It needs to be a little larger. It needs to be busier. It needs to have a lot of structure to take your eye away from focusing on where you don't want it to focus at.
Try to go with something kind of...
A lot of people initially think, oh, let's put something really heavy and dark. If you put something really heavy and dark, it's going to pull your eye to it even more. Yeah. And it's going to stand out worse. You're trying to take the attention away from the spot.
That's a good word you used right there. You said structure. That's a really good word. You're right. That's why real... say photorealistic-y, especially black and gray stuff, a lot of times does not work unless it's a relatively small cover-up and you're able to go relatively large, because this, you know, a lot of the structure is built up from very subtle spaces left open in the skin, and if you don't have that structure there with a heavier line or something to really make that design pop, you're going to lose all that, and you're going to end up with a big muddy mess.
Yeah.
So good.
And that's why when I see people that have solid black tattoos on their forearms, I think they've got a bunch of crappy tattoos underneath that.
Yeah,
that they're trying to hide.
Right. And it's, you know, it's evolved a lot. You know, back in the day, 20 years ago or whatever, you know, not only was I less informed and didn't have as much under my belt as far as time in the chair, it was like, tribal, I guess. Tribal's good. Or what do you think of Panthers? Or maybe this nice Reaper?
Yep.
But, you know, the pigments have gotten a little better. The machines have gotten better at putting that pigment in.
Oh, yeah.
So you get better heels, you get tighter heels, you get more saturated heels. And so that all translates to giving us a little bit more that we can do for a cover-up.
Right.
Yep.
So, you know, that helps a lot.
So let's say they've passed on the cover-up thing.
Right.
They've got let's say they want to get a job in the corporate world and they have a hand tattoo. So what are their options as far as tattoo removal?
Laser removal, which is pretty common around the Richmond area back on the coast. A lot of the shops actually have a booth. Instead of an extra tattoo booth or a piercing booth, they have a tattoo laser removal room and a certified laser removal, you know, person and machine technician, and that's as much of a job and a spot in a tattoo shop now as a tattoo artist or a piercer. You know,
That's a whole separate licensing too.
Yeah, it's a whole separate licensing, all that stuff. It makes it convenient because when people go to look to whether to remove a tattoo or to get a tattoo, the first place they go is a tattoo shop.
Of course.
You know what I mean? They're not thinking, well, I got to go to the doctor.
Yep.
You know, and that's going to be way more expensive, of course, if you have to go to a doctor's office
So
and whatnot.
we should probably kind of explain what that is. Basically, a laser will burn off the pigment, as I understand it.
Yeah,
it breaks it apart.
What it does is, I had my whole forearm done. about 10 years ago or
It's
something.
been a while ago.
Yeah. So basically the idea is that the laser goes in, it doesn't damage the skin because it focuses on the darker pigments in the skin, and when it hits it, it supposedly fractures the pigment into tiny pieces that your body is a lot more easily able to come up, gobble up, and get rid of.
To absorb.
Right.
Yep.
So
Take it away in your bloodstream.
where you get the scarring and the terrible healing and all that is kind of a lot like the same way you get that from tattooing. It's overworking the skin, giving it way too much to have to heal. So they've got a pico laser now that there's. Last I heard, there was very few of them actually available in the U.S., unfortunately, but I'm sure that's growing even since then. That does amazingly well. It's fast. It gets a lot of the colors like a lot of the other lasers don't.
Much like the tattoo machines and tattoo industry itself, the technology's gotten better on our end. We're having better heals. Same thing. Some of those horror stories you hear of scabbing and stuff for tattoo removal, the technology is getting better there too. So
and the technicians are getting more used to
with it.
It's just like back in the day. My tattoos didn't heal as good as they do now.
Yep.
I didn't have as many of them in the chair. So the technicians, if they've been at it a while, just like a tattooer that's putting them on, it's and I tell people that same thing. I go, it's just like looking for a tattooer. Look at their portfolio, ask them any question you can think of, and if you know anyone who's had it done, talk to them and see if they'd recommend them.
And also, I would anything that has to do with medical, talk to your doctor. They've got to at least know some type of plastic surgeon in the area or somebody that maybe has a little bit more knowledge than they do that can make a referral to somebody that's safe.
But it's just like I said, and I'll say it again, it's just like a tattoo shop, though. Just because it says tattoo across over the door doesn't mean that they're going to be able to do what you're going to want.
Right.
So just like the removal places, you don't want it. Oh, they'll remove it just like anybody else. No, they won't. I've seen really botched removals that looked like they got caught in a fire.
Yeah, because if it's not set up correctly,
you'll blister and
you'll burn the skin.
It's
So
3rd-degree burns.
And this was when I saw that. It was in the first shop I ever worked in Mesa, Arizona, and a lady came in, and it was on the side of her calf, and it was about 4 inches by maybe 2 inches, and it looked like peanut butter after you wiped it on a sandwich. It was just this. It looked like Freddy Krueger, and she's like, "Yeah, I want to, get this covered or whatever." And I'm like, "Oh my God, like what happened?" She's like, "Oh, I had a tattoo there, and my husband at the time didn't like it."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Whoa." He would
So
rather
what do you do?
look
Take
at
out a knife?
He would rather look at that.
Yeah, did he take it off with a belt?
Than a
sander?
little picture on your leg. So and so things have advanced, have gotten better, and if you're really looking into, really considering it and doing it right, Pico would be the way to go. That's if you're going to take the time and you're going to spend the money, and say there's one in Chicago. Chicago's only a few hours away. Make the trip, and get it done right, because in the long run, you're gonna get it done quicker, with less issues, and you're gonna have, I think, a better outcome from.
Plus, if you're just trying to erase some mistakes and you want to get some tattoos in the future, you want that skin to be as healthy as possible after the fact.
Right.
The other thing is, I think that a lot of people think that you just go in one session and it's over and done with.
No, it's multiple.
It does take
sessions.
multiple sessions.
I think it's opposite, DaVo. I think people think that they have to go back and back and back and back, and that's what turns them off.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And that's not necessarily the case. Like I said, I had my whole forearm done. It was all black and gray before. There was no color. And I had to hit twice, the whole thing twice, about a month or so in between sessions. I'd always meant to go back for maybe another one, but things happened with the place I was going to, and it never happened. And I ended up getting the cover up, and it was very successful. I went to a really good artist, and he did a great job on it. And it healed much like a tattoo, but it hurt like a mother.
That's what I've heard. It hurts more.
It does not feel good.
The best way I've heard it described is it feel like when you're cooking bacon,
And you
and you get a little
grease
it
pops.
snaps on you. It's like that, but it's just bang, 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 bang. Well, not constantly, and it's not like a constant burn, it's like drip, 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 drip. It's all these little bangs, you know, and that's the laser going in and blowing up that pigment, you know, bang, 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 bang. It goes fast. My whole forearm probably
You just went
took
in to get
10
yours
minutes.
lightened enough to cover, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing.
You didn't go for
and
complete
that's kind of where I was going with
cover
that too.
or removal.
If I wanted it completely gone and it was black work, she probably could have got it probably 95%, because after 2 sessions, it was probably a good 60 to 70%.
That's
gone.
awesome.
Yeah.
And broken up enough to where a design such as this blasted right over it, no sweat. So it really depends on what you've got, how much color you've got in there.
Color takes longer.
Yeah, but certain colors. But I think that's the advantage of the Pico. I don't think
it doesn't discriminate with color.
so much. But yeah, it's definitely, I think, a lot more of an option for people than they give it credit for, especially now and the more time goes on. It's just become better and more of a feasible option.
Absolutely.
And if you are if you're a little more concerned about what you're going to get for the cover up, then that can knock it back enough to where it gives us more options to where we can, do maybe more of a painterly or more of a realistic, maybe even black and gray type of design, where before we couldn't, because that design that you had was just so strong and it was going to overpower,
it was going to bleed through, I think is the easiest way to put it.
Right. It was going to go stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so if you are thinking about getting a cover up and you're covering up a large piece and you don't want to go any bigger, maybe an option is going and get a couple of removals with a laser and then take it from there.
Yeah, and I've had several clients do that too, because what they want is more important than what they're covering up. I guess I'll put it that way. If it says Susan and you're with Tara, and Tara does not want to see anything, dude. Nope. It's got to be gone. Yeah. But if it's something I got when I was a kid and now I want this, and and even with my arm, I can pick out kind of where stuff was.
Where some of it was.
But who cares?
Yeah.
You're
always going to be able to do that.
It was a give and take. I'd rather have that design and be able to see a little bit of stuff than have it all just blasted super dark and everything else. So.
So now, what are some of the other options? I remember the old school way was dermabrasion, which really didn't work. Basically, you just created a giant. And for those that don't know what dermabrasion is, it's basically a medical grade belt sander that would grind off layers of tissue. Yep. Unlike, I guess, the laser, basically what you're doing is you're inflicting a lot of light damage, like we would have for sunlight if you left the tattoo out in the
You're accelerating that to an incredible rate.
Speed. Yeah. Like you'd probably have to tan for, 10,000 years to actually get that effect.
Sure.
But the belt sander effect would usually leave a shadow and a really nasty red scar.
Or if not red, horrible. It would be void of any kind of pigment. It'd be very white,
or would it discolor on some
people? It's like a big, even if it was done
too deep,
relatively well, it's an even scar. But you can.
I don't know if anybody even does that anymore.
I don't. Well, the one I don't think really anybody does anymore, which is the most. If you ask me, is say you wanted this guy removed, they would make an incision and put a balloon under there,
and
they would fill it with fill it with saline, and until your skin was nice and tight. And then they'd say, come back in a couple weeks, and they'd put more saline in it, and more saline in it, and more saline in it. Once they got your skin stretched out enough, they will take a scalpel and cut the tattoo off of you, and then suture your skin back together.
Interesting. So it's like stretching an ear. Or stretching a piercing. Yeah. It's like giving your body time to produce additional tissue. So where it could be replaced.
So when you remove some of it, it won't notice it. It'll go back to
Wes looks scared over there.
Yeah, and now
these things really they're medieval sounding now.
They really are. And that's really the most extreme one that I really know of, other than maybe amputation. But not
when I was
viable.
a lifeguard for Paramount, I had some tattoos. You couldn't be tattooed. And being a lifeguard, you're just in shorts if you take your T-shirt off for deep rescue or whatever. So if you had any tattoos showing, we used to have to get this stuff called Dermablend. Okay. It looked like a stick, and it was just pure cover-up makeup. Yeah. And like you just keep rubbing it on you until it built up enough layers where it just looked like a really bad bruise. Right. But you didn't look tattooed. Right. But I thought it was so funny they would spend an hour doing that to us in the guard room. We'd go out and go do one rescue in the pool. It's gone. It's washed right off.
You're the illustrated man. Look at this magical
and all of a sudden, ooh, there's a tattooed lifeguard.
Yeah.
It was just comical to me.
There was a similar product back when I got married originally. my wife to be had a large back tattoo, and that was a long time ago when.
Didn't want
20 years ago, I guess. And, so she just, didn't want this tattoo, and it was a giant demon skull, so I could kind of see. She didn't want it in her wedding photos. And I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. So we went to the theatrical store downtown Des Moines here, and they have a product. It's a tattoo cover-up product, and it wasn't in a very big container, and we covered about half her back with it, and just got a little sponge and daubed it on there, and it just gone. I mean, it was crazy. It didn't look like a bruise. It looked like she was never tattooed ever.
They did a YouTube with that. Remember Zombie Boy? Rick,
it's a similar product.
Geest or Guest or something like that.
Right.
But he was the one that looked like a skeleton, the zombie. And they did a commercial with that stuff when they came out with it, and they covered him. And he looked like he didn't have any tattoos.
Yeah.
It was really weird.
It was, yeah.
And you can usually find that at any place that does theatrical type
but it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Is it a lot of work?
But you're going to have a buddy.
Well, if you want to do your entire body, it's a lot of work. But if you have, say, something, on your hand or on your fingers that you're going to go meet your, girlfriend's dad for the first time, and you don't want to let him know right away that you're a scumbag.
Yeah.
Hold
that off for a little bit later, like second or third dinner.
Yeah.
Christmas is a good time.
That's how you apply for that house loan, and they finally see your credit score.
Yeah, definitely ease them into that.
Hey, I married your daughter, and we got a kid on the way. By the way, I'm covered in tattoos.
And I worship Satan and drive a motorcycle.
There we go. I every once in a while you'll see in advertising or I hear about some wonder cream that supposedly is going to remove the tattoos. Have you guys had any experience?
Nothing that's come up that's lasted very long that I've seen.
Nothing
There's
that's
been a few
like
brands that stick around for a bit, but
Wrecking Balm, I remember there was a huge
one I saw,
thing with that. And a guy that worked for me a while back got that.
Yeah.
And he's the guy who actually got me involved with the laser person. But anyway, he bought that and tried it. And basically what he told me it was, I never saw him use a product or anything. I just heard him talk about it. It was basically like this little electric machine sander. And this abrasive product. You put it on your skin.
So it's dermabrasion.
Yeah, you just grinding it out.
And you repeatedly did that as you grind away on the layers of skin, and it's just a very barbaric way of doing it. So, and not very viable. Not viable.
Nope.
So, those products come and go, and they're just like the tinnitus medicine, the ear ringing medicine. It's like if you have tinnitus like I do, you'll about try anything. It's like weight loss.
Yeah.
Hey, buy this pill. These pills are $25. You're like, it's only $25, even if it doesn't work. I'll buy it.
And you and 10,000 other people do it.
Right. And those products are a lot like that. They're like, it's not going to work, but we'll make it cheap enough where people will go, meh. If it does work, holy cow. If it doesn't, I'm only at $80.
Yeah, I didn't lose anything.
So, they're usually, they're not worth their time.
Okay. So
I recommend thinking about the placement of your tattoo initially before you get it.
Amen.
Don't be angry at your tattoo artist when he makes suggestions like, what do you do for a living? Are you sure you want to tattoo your face, neck, or hands? It's not because we're being dicks.
Yep.
It's because we've already experienced that.
Yep.
What you're going to get in society, like it changes once, like from neck and hands to face.
And we feel a degree of responsibility because we are the one that
I don't want to ruin
that.
your life. I don't want to condemn you from nurse
ethics,
college to McDonald's.
Yeah,
I don't want that on my conscience.
Right. And that you'll always be able to find someone who will do it. If you're the
Anybody will
most
take your money and do
gorgeous
whatever.
guy or girl 18 and you want F the cops across your face, you'll find somebody.
There's always a scumbag that doesn't care.
To say,
look
what I, So
beware.
but that doesn't mean it's a good idea.
No,
not necessarily.
Right.
And always research your artist.
Absolutely.
As far as facial tattoos, and it's something we probably should have covered when Michelle was here, is cosmetics. We haven't gotten into that ever.
Yeah, she was trained, while she worked for me, she was trained under that, and then she wanted to implement it, and I was too scared of it at the time.
It just seems like a lot of liability for the reward.
Yeah, and it's come a long way since then. But yeah, at the time it was still kind of in its infancy and
really scary.
I wasn't comfortable with it.
Just kind of a buyer's beware if you're considering it. I know this is off the train of thought that we had initially, but if you are getting it done, most states only require a day course to be certified to tattoo cosmetically. You really want to look at them and dig into them much deeper than you would even a tattoo artist.
Yeah.
And find out exactly how good their results are.
And it's usually not too tough to find, in your group of, friends or whatever.
One day qualifies you to tattoo a face. That is insane.
Well,
That's
but
insane.
They're covering cross-contamination.
the best
They're covering
thing is to find, someone who's had it done, talk to them, were they, drinking Jack Daniels while they did it? Did they smell like, something? How, then you can see actually.
Do they look like the lady?
Did they offer a happy ending at the end?
Oh, boy. Yeah. So, yeah, in the flesh is the best way to, see someone's work in that industry and in our industry, I believe. But anyway.
Yeah, so that's, I think we've pretty much covered that, unless you guys have anything else to add.
I don't think so.
I think that's pretty well rounds out.
Okay, so you've been watching Q&A in the Kitchen. We broadcast these, the video version goes out one Sunday, and the next Sunday we put out the podcast edition. We'd like to thank our sponsors, or sort of sponsors, Skin Kitchen Tattoo, Death Before Decaf, in the Axiom Body Piercing Studio. Also, you probably want to check out our merch. We have various different things on there, including the t-shirt Jack's wearing and the tapestry behind him. There's various other designs on there also, if that doesn't necessarily appeal to you or whatever.
Well, who doesn't want a Captain Jack bed sheet?
I don't know. They have blankets, throw blankets too.
And pillows.
Oh, wow.
With naked girls on them.
Yep.
I'm going to get on
Yoga
that.
pants, t-shirts, towels, all kinds of good stuff.
So
I
check
need to
that
do yoga
out.
pants.
Link
Tank
is gonna
tops
be...
for the ladies. So I don't want to
Reserve those
hear I don't want to hear the word
I'm
tank
gonna wear
top
'em in
come out
here.
of a girl's mouth. Well, okay, I do, I guess. But anyway, we've got tank tops now. So many
Yes.
women. When are you gonna get tank tops? We've got tank tops now. Go to the store. On the website.
And they're not called wife beaters.
Nope.
No.
Just so we're totally what we're totally.
Just so we're clear on that, that's not what you call them. They're men's A-shirts
He's
or tank tops.
So discriminating.
I don't know.
Yeah, I
where it's going
know.
with that.
Anyway, everybody, thank you for watching or listening. If you're listening, make sure to give us a thumbs up. Let us know that you enjoyed it. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe already. But until next time, here's hoping all your tattoos and piercings heal with ease and without a single issue. And if you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area, we hope to see you for your tattooing and body piercing needs in the future. Have a good day, everybody.
Be nice to each other. See you next time.
See you guys.